So on the one, hmm. So on the one hand, almost all the Omicron cases have been mild. Hmm. So on the one hand,
Oh, I have a very controversial clip from Trevor Noah that totally unexpectedly failed. I swear it's incredibly controversial what he says. He questions things. I had to start off the show with that. But unfortunately, technical failure, and we'll get to it. So let me play that clip for you, and then you can see what the mood is in this country, how people are really thinking about vaccines. People that you don't expect might have thoughts like these about vaccines. Let's see.
so on the one hand, almost all the Omicron cases have been mild so far. But on the other hand, the guy who stands to gain millions of dollars from new vaccines says we need new vaccines. If we don't make a new vaccine, this disease could be with us forever. Sorry, I was thinking of something else. Now look, I'm not saying that the CEO of Moderna is lying. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I don't think he's the most objective source on this topic.
All right? Trevor Noah says that the CEO of Moderna might not be the most objective person to tell you about vaccines. And he's talking about making a new vaccine for this new scary variant that we have out called Omicron. Or if you're Joe Biden, Omicron. But this new variant, which is really scary, they say it's spreading like crazy all over the world. And now they're moving for more mandates in New York City just because of the new variant. But meanwhile, the news is that the new variant isn't killing anybody. Literally. So much. The new variant, it turns out, is pretty mild, and maybe everybody should welcome it. So I have the news on that. I have been reporting on this scary new variant that they're making everybody take vaccines for. And they're locking people up, in Australia. And they're making more vaccine mandates happen around the globe, too, in Europe, too. It's scary out there. I was going to say it's safe being in America, but it's not safe. Not if you live in New York City today. Not after what Blasio said. I mean, this is really tyrannical stuff that's going on right now. I would have never thought it would come to this, to where they're telling 5-year-olds that they have to have 2 shots before they can go into a restaurant with their family. But that is literally where we're at today. So I want to give you the latest news on Omicron just to see what everybody's freaking out about. Some people are saying it's a blessing. And that's kind of what I'd be saying too. It actually is kind of predictable in a lot of ways if what they're saying about it is true. So what should you do? What are you going to do? Are you scared? Are you wearing a mask? What's the government going to do? So let me tell you exactly. I'll tell you what's going on with Omicron, because it isn't what they want to tell you. They want to tell you to be really scared, and to get ready for a new vaccine. Trevor Noah, he asked, should we listen to the Moderna CEO? And then people call him an anti-vaxxer. People are saying they changed the definition of anti-vaxxer. So it includes people now who aren't even against vaccines and might totally take all the vaccines that they're told to take. And they could still qualify by the dictionary definition as an anti-vaxxer. Are you an anti-vaxxer? One of the number 1 selling books in the country right now is from someone they call an anti-vaxxer, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., about Dr. Fauci. They don't want people to know that. They want you to think that Fauci's a good guy. So let me give you the latest news on what's going on with Omicron, and then I'll clue you in on a few other things too. We're broadcasting live today on YouTube, Rockfin, DLive, and Twitch. And barring any more technical difficulties, we're going to bring you the rest of this stream successfully. If you'd like to support the Lift the Veil show, you can't do it on YouTube because we're super demonetized, but you can do it on Rockfin. And if you become a subscriber on Rockfin, which gives you access to all the premium content on Rockfin, all of it, including my own, I'll give you a free t-shirt if you just email me after you sign up. So if you sign up at rockfin.com, rokfin.com/lifttheveil, become a subscriber, and then email me at lifttheveil411@gmail.com and just tell me the name you signed up under. I'll send you a code for a free shirt from our other sponsor. So that's through this month. So take advantage. I've sent out, it's real. I'll really do it. Just email me. And then also check out our store, Truth Revolution Clothing, at truthclothing.io. If you're looking for Christmas gifts, we have stuff that's really unique. And some of that stuff is made in America too, like the shirt I'm wearing right now. So check out our store, truthclothing.io. It's right here. These are some of the shirts that are made in America, including our Freedom of Face shirts, our Nassim shirt, Freedom of Voice. Those are made from American cotton and American fields and on American looms and everything, and then sent out to you. We do it the real way. So check that out. That's not all we have on the site. We have all kinds of stuff. So check it out. Stock up for Christmas. You get free shipping on orders over $60. And then the other thing that I do, which you can use me for, is cryptocurrency consulting. So this is also brought to you by that. If you ever need any help with anything related to cryptocurrency, I promise I can help you. Go to bitcoinmissionary.com and sign up. It's the most reasonable rates in the whole industry. So, all right, that's all the stuff we're doing. We're in a million different things. But thanks everybody who supports the show. This is our backup YouTube channel. We're hoping we don't get banned today. But just what am I going to say today that's controversial? Well, just what the CEO of Moderna says, which is that the vaccines aren't going to work against Omicron. That's one thing that they're saying because of all the mutations and stuff. And if we thought that the vaccines worked against Omicron, then why are we talking about getting new vaccines if the current vaccines work? What's the current solution? Get the vaccine, get the booster. You can live your life like a normal person. That's what they tell you. Get the vaccine, get the booster because Omicron. And at the same time, they say, new vaccine coming for Omicron because the current vaccines don't really work. Well, do you need new vaccines? Because Trevor Noah said, everybody says it's mild, right? Dr. Fauci even says encouraging data on Omicron severity. Early data from the new variant does not indicate a great deal of danger, says Dr. Fauci about the Omicron variant. In the Daily Mail here, it says the WHO, this is just from a few days ago, the WHO says no one has yet died from Omicron variant, despite the new COVID strain being spotted in 38 countries. So despite this thing being all around the world and been in Africa, South Africa for a little while now, despite that, the WHO says no one has died from this variant. Wow, that sounds good. And wow, wouldn't it be kind of normal for a virus to mutate, become more transmissible and less deadly, and more evasive of immune protection? Wouldn't that be pretty normal? Wouldn't that be expected? And I'll show you, the Wall Street Journal is reporting, Omicron may cause less severe COVID-19, small South African study finds. It finds that, a lot of really positive things about the Omicron variant. A lot of really positive things about the Omicron variant. They're waiting to say officially, they're waiting a few weeks before they know for sure. But there's a lot of good data out right now. In a report published by the South African Medical Research Council, doctors said that of 42 people being treated for COVID-19 on December 2nd, 70% didn't need oxygen to breathe normally. And of those that did, 9 were suffering from COVID-19 induced pneumonia, and the remaining 4 were on supplemental oxygen for underlying conditions unrelated to COVID-19. In other words, there were 13 people that needed oxygen, and 4 of them didn't need it because of COVID. Only 9 did. And usually, most of the time, based on previous waves of COVID, they say that's not how it had been. Previously, most of the patients in the hospital for COVID needed oxygen support. So in this case, the infections are much more mild. They say an accompanying analysis of 166 COVID-19 patients admitted to the same hospital found the majority were under age 50 and unvaccinated, and this is in the hospital, and most of them were admitted for reasons other than COVID-19. So you're going to see numbers going up of people hospitalized with COVID-19. This study says that most of the people who are hospitalized with COVID-19 are not there because of COVID-19. So even though there's going to be some increase in hospitalizations, so far, a lot of those hospitalizations, in fact, they categorize it as most, are not because of this new COVID-19 variant, this Omicron, which is a blessing to the world. It's the end of the pandemic. This is what they're really afraid to tell you. I don't even know if what you're allowed to say on YouTube. It's the end of the pandemic. Everybody should go party. Really. They're afraid to say it right now. But I have an article that suggests as much, a local news article from South Africa. So it's not just me saying it. This is it. I mean, the people should be super excited. And this is why I said, I don't know if the stock market is going to crash this time, because we're going to find out, and the news is going to report it, and even Dr. Fauci is saying it's mild. They can't cover it up if it's not killing anybody. Even though they want to make us scared, they can't cover it up if it's not killing anybody. Eventually, they're going to have to say it's not killing people. And that is kind of what they're saying. This says the average stay in the hospital in the COVID ward after diagnosis was 2.5 days, compared with an average of 8.5 days during the previous 18 months. So it's drastically reduced. And they say that there were some deaths recorded, but like I said, the WHO says that nobody has died yet. Nobody has died yet. They say this is a totally different picture than previous waves that went through South Africa, where not that many people are vaccinated. Not that many people are vaccinated. Their death rate is not increasing. More people are not dying right now. So what does that mean? This is a local news story from South Africa. Extremely mild Omicron variant is rapidly exterminating much more deadly Delta coronavirus mutation. This is the beautiful thing with viruses as they mutate and become more contagious and less deadly. First, you come out with the Delta variant. This is kind of what happened was we had the alpha and beta, and the vaccines were designed for those versions, and the vaccine kind of worked against those versions. There weren't as many reports of breakthrough cases, right? You remember before Delta. Then Delta came along, more transmissible, less deadly, and now almost every case is Delta. And that's good. Delta has been good overall because it's less deadly than Alpha was, than the strains that came before. And, however, it mutated and became evasive of the vaccine. So more people got it who got the vaccine. So there's no reason to think this version, also much more mutated, evades the vaccine even more, but it's like getting a cold. Rapidly exterminating the much more deadly Delta coronavirus. This is what happens. It pushes out the other forms of coronavirus. This is something that you not only don't want to be afraid of, but you would prefer, if you have the choice of people getting one version or the other version, you want people to get Omicron, because usually when you get one virus, then you get immunity to all the viruses, or at least some kind of immunity. So you'd want people to get exposed to Omicron because they're not going to die. It says excitement is growing among coronavirus experts in South Africa and around the world as it is increasingly seems that the new Omicron variant is rapidly replacing the much more deadly Delta mutation. Experts are so ecstatic because it seems more and more that the Omicron variant is much more contagious and dominant than Delta, but also much milder and less deadly. Some experts are therefore even urging countries to drop restrictions and let Omicron spread so the more infectious but less severe variant can kill off Delta quicker. And it says that the Delta displacement is in full swing. So this is a beautiful thing. And like I said, I feel like they're afraid to report it in our local news, but this is the way it should be reported. We have the virus that is going to make this pandemic over. If you believe in science, the end of the pandemic has started. It appears that Omicron is more contagious than previous versions of the virus. It appears that way, or at least it's pretty contagious in a way where it can actually outcompete other versions of the virus, even the Delta version, which was pretty contagious. So if it can outcompete that version and get rid of the Delta version, then the Delta version doesn't exist anymore. We don't have the Alpha version anymore. The Delta version basically exterminated it. So now we have the Omicron version, which will come in and exterminate the previous versions of the virus. All we have to do is let it spread. And vaccines, this is where you have to be careful what you say on YouTube. Vaccines might not work. Okay, I'll say that. According to the CEO of Moderna and others who've looked at the thing, the vaccine might not work against it. If I had to say what I really think, it would be slightly different than that. But the vaccines are less likely to be effective against this. Yet, that same Wall Street Journal article updated its headline to be about the new vaccines. This is the same article I showed you where the headline originally was this, that Omicron may cause less severe COVID-19. They updated the headline to say that U.S. plans to fast-track revamped COVID-19 vaccines. So we already have vaccines for diseases that don't kill you. That's already something that's socially accepted. So I suppose in some ways people accept, even if this virus is much less deadly than the current versions of coronavirus, which aren't that deadly, especially for healthy people, they're still going to want a vaccine, and they're probably still going to want to mandate it. So, which will show you that they don't believe in science or natural immunity. We already vaccinate for other things that aren't deadly, like measles and chickenpox, which people freak out about, but used to be common childhood diseases that everybody got. Even someone like in my parents' generation, he got measles. Everybody got measles. It wasn't very deadly, but now they vaccinate for it and they pump up the fear on it, right? Then it's a measles outbreak. Oh my God. When the numbers are about, it kills about 1 in 10,000. So we're going to find out about this new variant and how deadly it really is based on whatever numbers we can get a hold of. But there will be numbers, and probably the best numbers are going to come from Public Health England. So on tracking the different variants and how many people it's hospitalizing, how many people it's killing. Right now, most of the people who are going to the hospital with it aren't going there from it. All right, so we expect that to continue. I don't know what to expect when that news totally takes hold, but I already think a lot of traders and so forth on Wall Street are betting on this thing not being that deadly because they read the news and it's important to know the news. This would be extremely exciting. We could end lockdowns everywhere because we would have a cold going around, a contagious cold that puts you out for a little while. They say it shares components with a cold virus. And that's how it escapes immune protection. So no surprise that it doesn't cause severe symptoms. Still, de Blasio came out today. It's just shocking. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable that that it's possible to live in America, somewhere where this guy makes the rules. And I'm curious what the pushback is going to be to this. But this is the story from de Blasio on these new mandates. And this is all because of the Omicron variant, which I just told you about, which is good. It's a virus that's good because it's going to get rid of the other viruses that actually kill people sometimes. Instead of saying that, instead of following the science, de Blasio mandates vaccines for everybody. Here he is today.
We in New York City have decided to use a preemptive strike to really do something bold to stop the further growth of COVID and the dangers it's causing to all of us. So as of today, we're going to announce a first-in-the-nation measure. Our health commissioner will announce a vaccine mandate for private sector employers across the board. All private sector employers in New York City will be covered by this vaccine mandate as of December 27th. We're going to have some other measures as well to really focus on maximizing vaccination quickly so we can get ahead of Omicron and all the other challenges we're facing right now. We
have to get ahead of Omicron. Mandating all private sector employers mandate the vaccine, no testing option, and mandates that kids over 5. And then this is a vaccine that has not been authorized, fully authorized by the FDA. It's under an emergency authorization use case for children, period. So even in California, where they're going to make vaccines mandatory for kids, they say they're waiting for full FDA approval. But honestly, this new variant, once it gets rid of the other variants, you don't need a vaccine for it anymore, and you don't need any restrictions of any kind, based on what they're saying. So rather than telling people to lock down, to shut up, and to get the vaccine, which they say might not work, right? They say it might not work. And like most of the people, like a lot of the people who got this new version were fully vaxxed or even boosted. So obviously the vaccine doesn't necessarily work, but still, when the only tool you have is a hammer, then every problem starts to look a lot like a nail. And when the only solution you have is more vaccines, then every problem looks like it requires more vaccines to solve the problem, even though we know that it doesn't. And there's stories about it. I mean, here. This is a story from the Netherlands. Dutch says 14 air passengers from South Africa with Omicron were vaccinated. Yes. So vaccinated people are getting it. People who had previous infection are getting it. It's got a lot of mutations. So it evades immune protection. But think about it, the end of the pandemic. So yeah, that's why I don't know where things are going to go. I'd say buy Bitcoin. It's always good. Buy Ethereum. The stock market, a lot of people are saying it's going to crash and it's ready to crash. But there is something to be said about the end of the pandemic being here. And that's, maybe it's a little early to call it. But that's what this looks like. This looks an awful lot like that, which means that we will live in a world in the future where people are not dying from this virus, And thank you for the diamond. Jay Wind, who has an opinion that, yes, I can't hold two thoughts in my head at the same time, which is that viruses are fake. Yes, viruses are fake. If you think that, then it's very hard to make sense of things, because everything I just told you, you'd just say, well, it's not real. But I told you good news about the virus, which could be real and is doing what they say viruses do, which is mutate, get more contagious and less deadly, and then they phase out, work through the population and get the hell out. That's what we could be looking at. Maybe we're stuck with a cold that comes back, and maybe people can get vaccinated if they feel like it. But it certainly isn't a world that requires lockdowns, vaccinated kids, etc. And we don't know anything about what this virus does to kids right now, except that if it's anything like previous versions, not much. It's not very deadly. So that's what's going on with Omicron. Still, and that's what's going on in New York City. We'll have to take a look to see if there are any protests. I would be really concerned if I lived there in New York City and wasn't able to do anything and everybody had to be vaccinated. That's just hell to me. I can't believe that people in America are being told to do that. It's wrong. And everybody should do whatever it takes to stand up against mandates. And if you stand up against mandates, even though you're fully vaxxed, then you are an anti-vaxxer, right? By definition. So people are pointing this out. The anti-vaxxer is a person who opposes the use of vaccines or regulations mandating vaccination. So if you oppose regulations mandating vaccination, just like what Blasio proposed today, where kids need to be double jabbed to go out in public, if you oppose that, you're an anti-vaxxer. So by definition, now they say this changed recently. I'm not so sure, because I looked up the history of it and I'm not sure it did change recently. But if you oppose vaccine mandates, which is the correct position for lots of different reasons, people who are pro-worker, like communists, theoretically, they should not be in favor of vaccine mandates, because you have to fire people for doing something that's a personal choice. And that's wrong. It's wrong to fire workers for medical reasons. From a libertarian perspective, you should have freedom from the government, and the government does not have the authority to mandate what you put in your body. From a conservative perspective, you want to have a smaller government, a less intrusive government. So from all points of view, mandates are wrong. They're wrong. It's wrong to mandate that people do something medically against their will that does have side effects. It's wrong to force someone to put themselves at risk, because there are side effects, and they have to admit that. There can be side effects. Yeah, people are scared. Apparently, they hear about side effects because there's actually a database that keeps track of side effects. And here's an article from the Dallas News that I just happened to run into that says how a vaccine side effect database sowed doubt in vaccinations. Yes, how it having a database that kept track of people's reported side effects from the vaccine sowed doubt in the vaccine. Like it's mysterious. People see in the VAERS database, for example, that over 10,000 people have reported dying after getting the vaccine, right? That's what it says in VAERS. Oh, but I should tell you, that doesn't mean that they died from the vaccine. It's just that they reported it, and you can't rely on the data and so forth. But people look at it, and they see people getting heart attacks, strokes, death, and they get scared, right? Like me, for example. Like, I feel like I'm a really reasonable person, but I've heard about people having side effects. Like people I watch on YouTube, for example, like Jimmy Dore had bad side effects. One of my neighbors, his wife died. I mean, to me, I got to take it as a sign. Wow, that's scary. And I don't think someone should mandate that I do something that's that scary. And maybe, the VAERS database, wow, it's really making people skeptical. And really, that's a problem. Because maybe we're sharing too much information with people. People are using real data and statistics, and it's sowing doubt in the vaccine. And Trevor Noah is asking questions about the vaccine, and he must be an anti-vaxxer. He's muddying the waters. Yeah, it's too bad having all that information out there when the information isn't convenient for the narrative that you're trying to push. When the VAERS database shows that side effects from these vaccines are off the charts. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you're allowed to say on YouTube. Yeah, you can't rely on it, supposedly. It's off the charts compared to other vaccines. So just comparing it to other vaccines in the VAERS database, these vaccines have a lot more reported side effects. All the reports for the other vaccines, so take it the same as the other vaccines. People report side effects there too, which aren't necessarily verified, right? But they're way more reported for COVID-19 vaccines. I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. I really don't know. I got kicked off for less. But that is inconvenient. Inconvenient facts, or practically facts. You don't want to put out too much information if it's not going to be convenient for what you're talking about. When people can go and publicly search, how many people died, how many people reported being dead after the vaccine. And you might think, they say, they think anti-vaxxers might be making it seem like the numbers are inflated, even though dead people can't even report that they died. Somebody else is going to have to do that for them. So you think it might be underreported. Yeah, I'm a reasonable person. I see stuff like that. I just think, man, if I can say honestly, I don't take vaccines normally, but if I thought it was safe and effective, I would consider it, so I don't even think I'm anti-vax. Literally, if I thought it was safe and effective, then I would have no problem taking it, if it did what it was supposed to do. But I'm not convinced. So call me an anti-vaxxer. I guess that's what they're going to do. Call me an anti-vaxxer. But I really do believe in science. And unfortunately for them, VAERS is part of science because that's where people can report things that happen. Very inconvenient. Dr. Vivek Murthy says that this is what he says. Let me play this for you.
But if you do as many families did, you get vaccinated and boosted, you use testing judiciously before you gather in well-ventilated spaces and use masks whenever you can in public indoor spaces, your risk can be quite low and your holidays can be quite fulfilling. That's what so many families experienced this past Thanksgiving. But if you do as many families did, you get vaccinated and boosted.
Get vaccinated and boosted. Hang out in well-ventilated spaces. Use masks. Be careful out there. They keep saying, they say that gas prices will go down if more people get vaccinated. They actually said that. So I have video clips from Australia. I want to tell you about magic mushrooms being used to treat depression. I want to talk to you about that. I want to give you an anecdote about our experience with that. and then we'll do the rest of the news. But I'm going to do that over on Rockfin, so people can consume this on YouTube. So I'm going to go over to Rockfin, get people over there. rokfin.com/lifttheveil. You can tune in right now. It's live. And I'll go over the rest of the news, including the internment camps in Australia. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate it. And for YouTube, yeah, that's what it is. Okay.